Travis Wayne Goodsell. So let's get to the Sunday school lesson for Sunday so that you can get better information. And just for full disclosure, Gray Shadow Mare, is that the name? Yeah, Gray Shadow Mare. I did the video comment reply. He has confirmed his identity with an actual death threat this time. Well, threatening to incriminate YouTube in his death threat, which explains why YouTube was slow in processing my latest video. That's an hour and like 15 minutes or so that I just posted. Had to remind YouTube, this channel is a religious channel protected by the First Amendment. It is not the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that wants to overthrow the Constitution with the First Amendment, with their religious freedom movement, to be allowed to commit crimes against others as an exemption because of their religion. There's a big difference. Criminality is not protected. Exposing crime is protected. Exposing lies is protected. Exposing deceptions is protected. Exposing the truth is protected. Do you not understand the difference? You have freedom of speech. You don't have the freedom to take others' freedom of speech from them. Hate speech is a crime and is not protected. Telling Mormons that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a fraud, criminal, treasonous, seditious organization that neglects the poor is not hate speech. What the church does is hate speech. Their religious freedom movement is hate speech, and it's a crime. But more with that at a later time when I do another comment reply, as I had to report him for his death threat and wanting to get YouTube involved in his crime against me. So Sunday school lesson is about Mormon betrayal of a fellow Mormon. Joseph, betrayed by Judah. See how I can tie it all together? It's amazing how the scriptures are awesome. So you have to understand you're going to need prerequisites of the previous lessons so that you will understand what I'm talking about if I don't repeat the information from the previous lessons. So, again, let me do a summary repeat. We have the creation of Adam to Noah, which is a latter-day pattern, type and shadow, if you want to call it that, from the Book of Mormon, in which the Bible itself is apocalyptic literature. It was written during the Roman period, as with the book of Revelation, which is apocalyptic literature. all the Bible are containing religious apocalyptic literature. They're not literal history. They're talking about a messianic hero for a specific time frame as designated by the signs in the heavens, star dates, turned into story form. Now, this does not make me the enemy. If you are in another religion and you did not know this of your own scriptures, and you're going around lying to people saying it's a literal history, like Mormons do with the Book of Mormon, you're the bad guy. If you refuse to accept the truth, you're in denial. If you I did that video. We'll refer to that video. It's an hour and 15 minutes. Oh no. And so, when we get to Abraham, we have more stories that come from the Egyptian documents. So, yes, Mormons, Joseph Smith is a real translator of Egyptian, not the Book of Mormon, with his Abraham chapter 1, which was pretty much all he gave us. Chapter 2 was a repeat of the Bible. Chapter 3, some new fun stuff from facsimile number 2, which was the hypocephalus, which was not part of the papyra. It was a separate thing that goes under the head of the mummy. But nonetheless, he incorporated it into his apocalyptic literature narrative for us. Yes, Joseph Smith knew this too and wrote his Book of Abraham. He didn't write the Book of Mormon, nor did he dictate it. But the Book of Mormon, yes, is in that same pattern, and so the Doctrine and Covenants has some clues for us to decode, and of course his Joseph Smith history is canonized in our scripture. Yeah, it's not literal history either. It's also apocalyptic literature. And so, 1 Nephi chapter 1, verse 2, learning of the Jews in the language of the Egyptians. Not Christianity, not Jesus Christ. And if you're going to hate me like Christians hate the Jews, you are committing a religious hate crime against me, Mormons. You're committing a hate crime against your own founder, Joseph Smith, because you are in denial, refusing to study your scriptures about what the learning of the Jews and the language of the Egyptians mean. So yeah, there is some animosity, because Mormons refuse to study and demand that everybody accept the lie. And so this leads into Genesis 37, because Abraham usurped the birthright blessing from Pharaoh. Isaac usurped the birthright blessing from Ishmael. Jacob usurped the birthright blessing from Esau. And so when I make fun of President Russell M. Nelson, it's because he's lying and deceiving to you, revealing he's not a translator. He doesn't even know scriptures. When he says he knows, and he leads you to believe he's the president of the true church, of the true Jesus. You see what's going on here? If the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, organized by Heber J. Grant in 1923, came out and said, we're allowed to start up the church again. We're going to be Christian this time, and we're going to be more like evangelical Christian, and so Jesus is now going to be our Christ. We're doing away with all things Joseph Smith, and obviously Brigham Young, because the United States shut down the criminal organization of Brigham Young, so we're not allowed to restore his church. So just so all you Mormons know, we're now Christian. We're now another Christian church with Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. So that I would have been born up not knowing a goddamn thing about Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon and any of his works, then that would have been just fine. But they needed to come out and confess that that's what they were doing. They chose not to. They chose to cover it up and lie to Mormons. So I was born and raised believing Joseph Smith is our founder, and come to find out we're not Christian. We're not supposed to have Jesus as our Christ. That's Constantine, a man who created him. Christians need to be honest with the world, because a man created their religion and created their God. A man. His name was Emperor Constantine of the Roman Empire. You do not have the right to take away others' rights, but you have the right to expose others' crimes, lies, deceptions, frauds, etc. And so Christians can be Christian. They're better at Christianity than Mormons are. But they need to come clean and say, yeah, Constantine created our God, and we do good works to our fellow man, trying to be better people ourselves. Great, have no problem. Believe what you want. Don't demand that I accept it as literal truth, that Jesus is your real God. And don't try to tell me you're the one true church, because there is only one true church, and that's the origin church, which is the Egyptian religion, from where mankind originated. And as mankind spread out all over the world, they took and devolved the religion of the Egyptians, devolved the language, altered it, changed it, made it worse. English is the worst language ever invented, because it's a mutt language. It's got every other language all blended into one, and so there are different rules for different words when put in the sentence in a certain grammatical structure. And then there's metaphoric usage, and they still don't have what Joseph Smith taught me, is to be able to see into the future in the eyes of someone from the past. There's no verb for that. So, yeah, weird. But the ancients had it. Alright, so yes, Ephraim will usurp the birthright blessing from Manasseh, but we're not there yet. So you see that pattern, usurpation. And Judah, from last week's lesson, is being set up to be the birthright blessing from Leah, whereas Joseph is from Rachel. Because Reuben will pass on having the birthright blessing, so it falls to Judah. Alright, and so this, as I told you, is a completely different story. The author during the Roman period merged them all together into a historical narrative. Big mistake. because now people believe that this is a historical document and needs to change science to conform to the text. And you can't do that. Science keeps trying to convince people not to do that, and people keep pushing through the Supreme Court to make the change. So nonetheless, we start out the story as Jacob, not Israel, even though his name was changed to Israel by now. They're not calling him Israel here, they're calling him Jacob, the usurper. That's the Hebrew definition. Translation: Jacob, usurper, dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger. So Isaac, but they're not saying Isaac. In the land of Canaan. Notice it's not Israel. This is the house of Israel, for which it got its name Israel. And so they start off with the genealogy. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph being 17 years of age. And they don't give the generations. Where's the generations? Which is very, very strange, because they did do it. They did it previously, didn't they? Yeah. Yeah, these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom. And so notice it's kings rather than generations. Notice the generations never have the wives with them for the most part, and the daughters listed, and other sons, because kings, that's what this is all about, is the birthright blessing status. And then they throw in some extra stuff because different people from different lands have their kings and their birthright blessings through that, even though Esau, which became Edom, had his birthright blessing usurped. And so, yes, in the Gospels, Joseph, who buys Mary and finds out she's now pregnant, it's his genealogy. But it's supposed to be the genealogy of the bastard son Jesus, who was supposed to be named Ishmael, or not Ishmael, Emmanuel. And so here we're seeing a number, 17. Interesting. Nelson is number 17 if you believe their story that it's a unbroken line of succession from Joseph Smith. He's technically number 11. But Joseph, who in the Book of Mormon, 2 Nephi chapter 3, says that a future Joseph, son of Joseph, will be the Mormon foundation Christ. He was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. Yeah, they don't say Rachel and Leah here, do they? These are the servant girls who were used as concubines to have children. They were the servants of the wives, Rachel and Leah, and then Jacob had children through each of these. And so you can see that a different story has been inserted here, and the author is trying to tie it together to the previous narrative that he is claiming is historical. And so he's not putting in the right information for this new story, assuming that he has previously talked about it, so you have to refer back to what you previously read. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. do they really call the 12 tribes of Israel the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah? Do they not mention Rachel or Leah at all? That's interesting. Very interesting. Because that suggests something else, but that's higher level education for you. That's my own personal note for myself. But interesting. Now Joseph loved, or Israel. Oh, now he's Israel. Loved Joseph more than all his children. See, when you're an author, you're supposed to harmonize the whole thing. You're not supposed to confuse your reader. And he's already confusing the reader, as he's calling Jacob Israel and Israel Jacob, and we have to refer to the one passage where two passages where he's given the new name. And so he's now trying to set up that Joseph is more loved than all the others. And this involves the Septuagint Greek version, a coat of many colors. That's wrong. It was a long sleeve, full length tunic in which, as the birthright blessing son, he's not required to labor like the other brothers who are out laboring at the moment. And that's why he's at home and the brothers are out working. It's because he's the birthright blessing son. And it's the name, to remind you again, is Yah of reeds. And we see that in his dream, as well as later on with Exodus and the sea of reeds that Moses, according to the commandment, brings out the bones of Joseph through the Reed Sea, incorrectly translated from the Septuagint Greek as Red Sea. And so the brothers are jealous. They're upset. After all, they're the older brothers, and their younger brother Joseph. See where the comparison is? Laman and Lemuel likewise hated their younger brother for being the favored son who was going to usurp the birthright blessing from Laman. And he hated Joseph just like the brothers hated, or he hated Nephi just like the brothers hated Joseph. And so Joseph is a dreamer. So Joel, talking about the latter days, talks about children dreaming dreams. Here's a child dreaming dreams. That's where Joel got this from. And he told it to his brethren, and they hated him yet more. So what is this dream? And yet he keeps saying what the dream is. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream I have dreamed. We hate you for your dream. Because again, the meaning and interpretation of the dream is what they hate. Not that he had a dream. They have dreams too. We all have dreams. It's just that when we wake up, we forget our dreams for the most part. We have to train ourselves to remember and recall our dreams. And then there's dream interpretation, which I've published books on that. I do need to do some upgrading, but yeah, it's basic info for you to help you out. But I hesitate putting it on academia.edu so that you don't have to pay for it. because it does need to be upgraded. But yeah, anyway, and he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream I have dreamed. For we were binding sheaves in the field. And I'm going to do a check. So Genesis 37:6 actually. Blue Letter Bible is a great online resource. Oh, 7. Okay. And so I go to KJV, click to change, and go down to Westminster Leningrad Codex. That provides us with the Masoretic text. And yeah, it's the Shada. Fields. Tok Elohim Elamim. Huh. 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 Interesting. Very interesting. Higher level learning for you, but Elohim, you've been led astray into thinking that it's the singular of God. It's actually, Joseph Smith is correct. It's plural, and it should be plural all the way through. And, yeah. Very interesting. And there's a whole new translation than what we're getting here. Nonetheless, we'll stick to the King James Version for you, as that's another personal mental note for me. But he says we, and when has Joseph worked a day in his life? No wonder they're pissed. We were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and stood upright. Again, they're pissed. If you understand what it means to be human and upright versus a certain animal that hunches. No wonder the brothers are pissed. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf. And yeah, that's the fall. The brothers fall. Joseph is the Christ for his brothers. Is the birthright blessing son. Now, they already knew that he was the birthright blessing son. I'm sure it wasn't kept a sacred secret. But we're not given the names of Rachel and Leah. We're given the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah. At least so far. And so as the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, they're already in a subservient position anyway, as they're not from the main wives. But the author's not explaining this to us here. And the brethren said unto him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us? They're in denial. Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet more for his dreams, and for his words. And so he keeps on dreaming, and here's the latter day connection. If you didn't catch the story version, here's the sign in the heavens. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it to his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, sun, moon, stars. 11 stars, though. Who's the 12th star? Made obeisance to me. Sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven. Obeisance. Latter-day prophecy, which I have revealed to you, are the 2 tetrads. The forerunner tetrad of 2014-2015, and the one we're currently in the midst of, 2021-2022. This is the latter day one, because the latter days are designated by Scripture, in Revelation even, as 2017 to 2024. And so this is what that's referring to. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebukes him. Jacob, the star of the scepter, from Numbers. Rebukes him for this dream about the latter days. And the father is the great high priest of the church of Israel. Just like Caiaphas plotted to murder Jesus, just as Pharaoh plotted to murder Moses. This is the pattern. His father, who supposedly loves him more than the others, has the dream about the latter days of which he was named Israel for, Yah, Prince of God, has the son Joseph, and Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon, that's the founding Christ of Mormonism. Said unto him, What is this dream thou hast dreamed? Shall I and my mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down to her, bow to the queen of ill putrescence? Princess Bride, a classic. To the earth? Yeah, it's the fall of the great and abominable church. Signs in the heavens and the likeness of things on the earth. And there's a reason why Judah is Judah, who betrays Joseph. Judah is phonetically the same as Utah. That's weird, because it was named after the Ute Indians, and the Mormons didn't get a say in it. They wanted to call it Deseret. They already had it all set up to be Deseret, because it was the kingdom of Deseret until the very next year, when the United States came in and Mexico seceded the territory to the United States, so that it became United States territory. They just disregarded Brigham Young and his kingdom. And so Brigham Young was being an ass, and fought back, and kicked out the government leaders and blah, blah, blah. And in 1887, the United States officially shut down the church. And let's see. But this is interesting in verse 11. The author is trying to reconcile here. And his brothers envied him, but his father observed the same. This is Jesus' mother does this same type of thing. She always was pondering about what Jesus did, even though he got chastised for disobeying his mother. Sort of an attempt by the author to reconcile it and make the parent look better. And his brethren went to feed the father's flock in Shechem. Remember Shechem? Yeah. Dinah. And the loss of the birthrights. And now they possess the land of Shechem? And Israel said to Joseph, do not thy brother feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, here am I. There's that here am I again. And he said to him, go, I pray thee, see whether it will be well with thy brethren, and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field, and the man asked him, saying, what seekest thou? I seek my brethren. Where are they? And the man said, they departed hence. Uh-oh. They are not doing their duty. They're not doing their job. And I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren and found them in Dothan. Uh-oh, they're going to get busted unless they do something. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. Yep, just like every other apocalyptic literature hero story, prophesying of the latter days. And they said one to another, behold, this dreamer, this visionary man, like our father, Lehi, come now therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him into some pit. And we will say, some evil beast hath devoured him. And we shall see what will become of his dreams. See what they're doing here? They are purposely going to destroy the prophecies of the latter days. They're going to make sure Jesus does not come to save the Ukrainians in Magog. Ezekiel 38. Because where's Jesus to save them? They're gone now. Over 2 million Ukrainian refugees, mostly women and children, as the men are staying behind. And I understand the percentage is about a little over 30% women who are fighting in Ukraine, for Ukraine. But nonetheless, the majority of the refugees are women and children. And we're in war. It's not going to end peacefully, I can tell you that. And so Reuben, the original, who's going to get his birthright blessing usurped because he gives up on it, the son of the seer, the firstborn birthright blessing son of Leah, heard it and delivered him out of their hands. Let's not kill him. Shed no blood. Just throw him in the pit. The pit of Despair! Don't even think about it. And lay no hand upon him, that we might rid him out of our hands. Wash their hands of him. Sound familiar? Pontius Pilate. And to deliver him to his father again. That we might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph of his coat, and they took him and cast him into the pit. Pit was empty, no water in it, so it was not a well. And so this was going to kill him anyway. He can't get out of the pit. If he can't get out of the pit, there's no water in it. How is he going to survive? How long will it take him to live? Not very long. And yet Reuben is saying, let's not murder him. We'll just wash our hands and let nature murder him. Still murder. Loses birthright blessing for that. Not just that he also passed it up and said, I don't want it. And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph of his coat, cast him into the pit. Pit was empty, no water. And they sat down to eat bread. Last Supper. And they lifted up their eyes and looked. Behold, a company of Ishmaelites. Oh. The grandfather's usurped brother. Came from Gilead with their camels, bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah, Utah, said to his brethren, might this money not be given to the exchangers? What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him for 20 pieces of silver, not 30. Doesn't matter the amount of the money. It's the betrayal of a brother, selling him out. Reuben returned to the pit. And behold, Joseph was not in the pit. You left him to die, and now you realize he's escaped. And you're in big trouble. And so yes, he does the falling symbol from Ash Wednesday, rent his coat, and his clothes, and he returned to his brothers and said, the child is not, and I, whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat, killed a kid of the goats, dipped the coat in the blood. And so yes, the Passover lamb on the doorposts for the latter days, creeping death, excellent video version on YouTube. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father, and said, this have we found. Know now whether it be thy son's coat or no. And he knew it, and said, it is my son's coat. An evil beast hath devoured him. As if they didn't know what he was wearing. Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces. And Jacob rent his clothes. See again, falling, symbol of falling, mourning, loss, death. Stars shall be darkened, sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven. And all his sons and daughters rose up to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted, and he said, "For I will go down into the grave unto my son mourning." Thus his father wept for him. In the latter days, there is the fall of the great and abominable church. There is the war and the deaths. There is the prophecy that those of the great and abominable church, brother to the restoring Mormon of Joseph Smith, to restore Joseph Smith's church, will be hated by his brethren, just like the sheep mare dog thing. That guy who said he was going to murder me and get YouTube involved in his crimes against me. So not a very good thing to tell me your plot, because now YouTube will see that I've reported him and will go, "Oh, okay, he's trying to get us to take down this guy's channel, which is a religious channel." But if a Mormon's in charge of YouTube at the time of the complaint, his will be done. So yeah, you might not get to see this video. I might be talking to myself on this. And it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adullamite. Not Adamite, Adullamite. Not Adamant, Adullamite, whose name was Herah. Alright, and so, yeah. Oh, did they actually, they did? Seriously? That is awesome that they didn't catch that. But they're not going to refer to it in the lesson, though, because this is the forbidden chapter. That even the church refuses to change Bruce R. McConkey's wrong heading. Tamar is not a whore. She is following the law because Judah is disobeying the law. Let me check this here. And so, yeah, it's a straight 37 to 41, but I'm willing to bet they don't cover it. Let's check. It's page 21. Yeah, here it is. Invite the Spirit. Gratitude. Lord was with Joseph. We should prepare for possible hardships. We can flee temptation. What? Well, this is for the false accuser of Joseph, the false sexual harassment, the false Me Too mover who's trying to ruin the Me Too movement. Yeah. Resist temptation to commit sexual sin. Not resist temptation to not commit sin, sexual sin. Way to word that, guys. Yeah, they're not talking about it. Because the first one is the exercise lesson. Huh. plastic ball. What does that have to do with the lesson? Are you even talking about the scriptures? What are you doing? So, yeah, they skip right to 39, but then they go back to 37. If we are faithful, the Lord will guide us and inspire us. But they do skip 38, because I don't see 38 listed there, and I don't see it there, and it's not there, and it's not there. Yeah, they skip it because they don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to interpret it. And so the Jews don't either. They're scared of it. Everybody's afraid of this chapter, and I'm gonna give it to you. There was the law, and remember, this is in the Roman period, so don't be putting literal history into this. There was the law that a woman who marries a guy, but he dies, she has to be taken care of by his brother. That's also in the law of Moses, for that reason. It was written during the Roman period. But even the laws of Hammurabi also had this law. And as we go over this, hold on. Westminster Leningrad Codex. It is. Huh. So what was the? It was 36. So we covered it last week. Okay, Ada is Judith. And Eliphaz. And Ruel. Yeah. Huh. Interesting. So Bashemoth, another of Esau's wives, one of the Hittites, bore the son named Ruel. And that's Ra, the sun god of the Egyptians, with God at the end of it. So Ra, the god Ra of the Egyptians. What you have with the son of the Canaanite woman this time is which is the reverse. The R is a prefix determinative for the universal symbol of the sun. So it's the God of the sun. That's the name of Judah's firstborn, birthright blessing son of the Canaanite woman, Shua. See how cool that is? They named them after the appropriate names. And so it gives the generations, more sons, no daughters, until Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. Do we find out who she's from? Be a Canaanite. Well, no, yeah, maybe. We're not sure who she is. Let's keep reading here. Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. So he dies. After being married, sealed for time and all eternity with Tamar. And so now Tamar is now widowed. She needs to be taken care of. She's property, and the property owner died. And I know that upsets you, but women's rights is fairly modern. Like only decades ago, modern. And how soon we forget that our grandparents' generation, even my parents' generation, that was during my parents' generation, even my generation, when I was a baby, women finally got the right to vote as a human. Because blacks were not considered full human and therefore were given partial voting status until the laws that overturned that right, that as well, fixing the Constitution. And so Judah, following the law, said to Onan, the next brother in line, "Go in unto thy brother's wife, marry her, raise up seed to thy brother." Why seed? Because we're the learning of the Jews concerning the Christ. We're not Christian. Jesus is not our Christ. And yet you get mad at me and you want to silence me and hurt me. Judah. Judas. And let's see. And then this is where people get uncomfortable. There's a parable in the New Testament about different kinds of soil. And if you plant your seed in good soil, you'll produce good results with good fruit. And then there's rocky soil and thorny soil, and then there's wayside soil. We're talking about wayside soil here, where the seed is planted. And it is not a commandment, or a thou shalt not, but you have to know proper sex ed. Nonetheless, makes everybody uncomfortable, and why the church skipped it for your Sunday school lesson. And so, yeah, the Lord is displeased, not because of the action, but because of the consequences. She's not going to get pregnant. She is the property to give sons and heirs to his oldest brother, who was murdered. This is the law. He's not wanting to give her a child to carry on the birthright blessing status line. Why is it so important to have a birthright blessing status from Judah? That's why. And in the process of time, let's see, wait a minute. And so, yeah, he was slain. And so Judah says to Tamar, "Remain a widow at thy father's house." Oops, you're violating the law, Judah. "Till Shelah, my son, be grown." Oh, right, sure. For he said, "Lest peradventure he die also." You seem to have a pattern of husbands, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. Judah does not want responsibility for her, and sent her home in shame and disgrace. This is not being brought out here in the culture, in the text, about the culture in the text. And in process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted, and went up unto the sheep shearers in Timnath, he and his friend Hirah, the Adullamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, Behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnath to shear his sheep. And there was a law in the laws of Hammurabi about that too. And she put her widow's garments off from her, so that she can be labeled and identified with something other than a scarlet letter, a widow's letter, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnath. She is not prostituting herself. She is following the law and making Judah follow the law. Judah is responsible, for he is the father of the sons of whom she was legally and lawfully wedded. And he did not want his third child to die, so he sent her back home in disgrace. Judah's the bad guy here. He already sold out his brother, and now the church has it all wrong. Bruce R. McConkie has it all wrong in the chapter heading. Because this is the only way Judah can do the right thing. Judah saw her. He thought her to be a harlot. What does it mean to assume? Makes an ass out of just you. Because she had covered her face. And he turned unto her. That's a temple ritual, because when you go before the veil of the temple, who's behind the veil of the temple until the veil is lifted and you pass through the veil, entering into the presence of who? Yeah, that's why women have veils. And you thought it meant slavery and oppression because of certain other religions who do this to women in their culture and have that interpretation, which is not the origin from Egyptian. It's a devolution that is wrong, way off from the original intention. And so for Mormon women to think that the church is being nicer to you women, I did the videos and they're popular, exposing the fraud that Nelson was doing to you. Because did you bother to check the changes made to the text in the law of chastity? Polygamy's coming back. So he takes away your veil. You're no longer holy, godly, goddessly, and then introduces the restoration of polygamy. Nelson is the criminal. Nelson is who you need to be complaining about. Let's see. And he turned unto her by the way and said, Go, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. Because he didn't know it was her. And she said, What wilt thou give me, that thou mayest come in unto me? She has been disgraced. She lost the property owner to take care of her. So she needs to be taken care of. So she needs the bride price. That's what she's doing here. She's getting the bride price from Judah. She's making Judah responsible for the law. This is not prostitution. She does not have sex with random strangers, getting payment from them for her daily living. She is holding Judah accountable for what he covenanted to do. And so he says, I'll sell a kid from the flock. And she said, wilt thou give me a pledge till thou send it? She's doing the proper process and procedure. Bruce R. McConkie is wrong. The chapter heading needs to be changed. And then he says, what pledge shall I give thee? And she says, thy signet and bracelets and thy staff that is in thy hand. And he gave it to her, and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. See, he didn't realize that he had wedded her, making the covenant for a wedding, being sealed and bound, because he thought she was just a prostitute. She, however, was restoring her honor. But went back to her family to be raised by her parents, because Judah is not a very good father figure. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adulamite, that was Hirah, and I'm not going to check to see if it's Hirah, won't worry about that, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand. But he found her not. Where's the glass slipper? Where's the woman that fits in the glass slipper? Then he asked the men of the place, saying, where is the whore with the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, there was no harlot in this place. There's a widow. And he returned to Judah and said, I can't find her. And the men of the place said, there was no harlot in the place. Judah said, let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her. And it came to pass, about 3 months after, that it was told Judah, saying, Tamar thy daughter-in-law hath played the harlot. No. Wrong. And also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. No. It's the great and abominable church through which the prophesied Christ is to be born through. A man like Moses, descendant of King David. And Judah is saying, let's murder her. Let her be burnt as a witch. I wonder where they got that idea from. Spanish Inquisition, one of the most atrocious, inhumane events in history. When she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, by the man whose these are, am I with child? And she said, discern, I pray thee, whose are these? See, she knew what she was doing. She got a contract signed and payment received for the contract. She is Judah's bride. She's no longer a widow. And Judah acknowledged them. Oh, crap. She hath been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shelah my son. And he knew her again no more. And so out of that one child came the prophesied Christ for the latter days. Alright. And twins were in a room. Oh, twins. What do you know? And first one. And twins were, came to pass as she travailed, and the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, "This came out first." It came to pass as he drew back his hand, that behold, his brother came out. And she said, "How hast thou broken forth?" So you see the birthright blessing being usurped with the actual birth itself. The one brother gets out his hand, not born yet, does not take the breath of life, and yet the midwife declares that one as the firstborn birthright blessing son, but the other one comes out first because the brother puts back in his hand. What a nightmare for the woman. The other brother comes out first. How hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon thee. Therefore his name is called Pharez. And afterward came out the other brother called Zerah. And so the usurper, Pharez, becomes the one through whom Judah is the ancestor of King David. Ta-da! So again, another birthright blessing, usurpation. See the pattern here? And they skipped it for you. Naughty, naughty, naughty. Alright, so we're at 1 hour. Let's stop and make this a video, part 1. And we'll have to figure out, yeah, because this is, we can do that. Because, again, we're seeing the same pattern of the foundation Christ and the latter-day capstone Christ. Cornerstone, capstone, not chief cornerstone of the cornerstone. As we're now getting into Joseph becoming the capstone. The foundation cornerstone that the brothers rejected has become the capstone of the family, as prophesied in the dreams. So yeah, let's do that here, which is why there's First Nephi and Second Nephi. First Nephi is all about the foundation, the cornerstone of Nephi, and then Second Nephi is about Nephi in the Promised Land as the capstone. And so just like Nephi is the first author of the Book of Mormon after the rewritten 116 pages of 1st and 2nd Nephi, then you have 3rd Nephi, where Nephi is put as king over the Nephites by that Jesus guy from outer space, and talking to him about where are the records of the name of God, the Lamanite. So, just because you do not study your scriptures does not give you the right to commit hate crimes like Judah. But you are fulfilling prophecy, that's for sure.